So I want to thank everybody here tonight to our SALT Talks. My name is Patty Schramm. I'm the Parent Resource Coordinator Trainer for the SALT Talks series that we have going on right now. We are on a virtual platform. We used to meet live, but of course with the current pandemic, we just switched to virtual for at this time. Tonight we're going to be talking about, we're going to continue our independent living series. In January and February, we're kind of targeting the independent living series. And tonight we're going to be talking about transportation. So we have a transportation panel here, and we have representatives from state and regional and local levels. We do have some of our panelists, unfortunately, are out sick, but we do have 3 of them here. There was 2 that had to call off sick. But we do have those presentations available in the Google SALT Drive. I did upload those. So I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Shannon, you want Keith to go first then, correct? I put the list of who's here tonight. So we have Keith Banner. He's with DODD. I'll let him tell us a little bit himself. And then we have Shannon Webster, who's with the Greene, right with the Greene Cats Transit. And then we have Serna Anderson with Miami Valley Regional. So we'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to Keith.
I'll go ahead and share my screen with my PowerPoint. Thanks everybody for being a part of tonight. I appreciate the invite. Can you all see it okay? I'm going to go ahead and go to the big old slideshow so it doesn't have all my notes and stuff. There we go. Well, basically what I'm going to walk through is the home and community-based services HCBS waiver transportation situation overview. I know a few of you, I saw some names that were familiar, so hello, but to new people, I'm the Community Life Engagement Project Manager in Southwest Ohio, and I work out of the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. And basically what I try to do is help families, county boards, providers, people who are being supported, anybody interested in that, to kind of pivot as much as we can toward helping people figure out where they fit in the community, where they fit in the world. That includes work, living, volunteering, having fun, just kind of figuring out how we can use the supports that we provide to help people make the lives they want to make in the community. So that's basically my mission. So, and transportation is a big part of that, obviously, because if you are going to be in the community, you're going to need to get to destinations to make things happen, including work and everything else. So under the HCBS, home and community-based waivers through Medicaid, that's the bulk of the way a lot of people get supported in the counties is through that system. This is the types of transportation that are available through that waiver system. And I'm going to walk through each one. And one of them is being proposed, it's being changed. It's actually just kind of in that process. And we'll talk through that one called self-directed transportation, which might be some new information for y'all. So we're going to talk about non-medical transportation, just transportation, the self-directed transportation I just mentioned. And the fact that all the waiver services are incorporated into each person's service plan based on the needs identified in an assessment. So that's one of the biggest roles that county boards play, is developing plans with families and individuals to kind of figure out what the needs are and then how do we get those met. So non-medical transportation is a service through the HCBS waiver that includes transportation to get to, from, between, or among a place of employment, a location where adult day support, career planning, group employment support, individual employment support, and or vocational habilitation is provided. Those are waiver services in that bullet point. A volunteer activity, a post-secondary educational program, an internship or practicum, a drop-off or transfer location from which the individual is then transported to or from above listed places. This got kind of revised a couple years ago to include more places like volunteer activities and post-secondary educational programs. So it kind of got opened up a little to include those into the rule that they weren't in there before, and I think it was 2019. So non-medical transportation is basically the transportation that gets you to job, to community activities, to programs. Agency and independent providers that have a Medicaid provider agreement and are DODD certified can provide that service, non-medical transportation. And it can be provided as a one-on-one or as a group service. There are 3 models of non-medical transportation: per trip, which is a rate that's obviously one way and then one way back, per mile, and then commercial vehicles at the usual customary fare. All those rates and all that information, and I misspelled medical, I thought, but I didn't. Good. You can go to that link, and I think that PowerPoint is Patty has got that for you. So you can go to that link and it walks you through all the information I'm telling you, and goes into more specifics and rules and rates if you're interested. So that's non-medical transportation. Transportation is basically a way to access the waiver services, community activities, and resources where people cannot provide transportation free of charge. So if there's a need for transportation in other realms, this service will meet that need. Agency and independent providers both who have Medicaid provider agreements and are certified through DODD can provide that service. It can, again, be provided one-on-one or as a group related service. A person having 6 or more points on his or her driving record are prohibited from providing it. And the provider may extend services to when the person's not physically present by on behalf of services like for buying groceries, pick up prescriptions, paying bills on behalf of. And again, that link at the bottom of this slide will take you to the rates and all the information around rules and that you could want to know about under transportation. This is the new service that's being proposed in the Medicaid waivers that will probably be stood up July of this year. And it's basically it's expanding the way transportation can be purchased and used through waiver. So it's called self-directed transportation. Again, it's not available, but it's being revised and rates are being pulled together. So everything's kind of coming together on this one for July of this year. And it means a service that enables a person to access activities and opportunities available in the broader community, such as a job, community resources, businesses consistent with the person's plan. And the self-directed transportation can enhance their independence as it's available around the clock, including on weekends and holidays, to accommodate that schedule and maybe even accommodate spontaneous transportation needs. So that's basically the purpose of kind of creating this new way of paying for and delivering transportation through the waiver. So the self-directed transportation includes purchase of prepaid vouchers, cards, passes, or tokens to access modes of ground transportation available to general public, and then a per mile or per trip reimbursement made to a person who meets provider qualifications. Again, we want to open up the possibilities around transportation for folks who maybe can't meet their needs through non-medical transportation or just transportation. So this is going to be another option, again, in July of this year. That is my spiel around transportation and the waiver. I think I may have a question. I can answer it real quick, or if there's something in chat. Nope, it's Patty. So if you guys have any questions, you can always email me, call me, or you can put it in chat and I'll answer it or try to answer it now. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, I guess.
Keith, I do have one question I wanted to ask, and I missed, but the self-directed transportation, is that going to be associated with a specific waiver, or is that just?
I think it's going to be across all waivers.
Okay.
So all with the level 1 IO and the participant directed, the self waiver. So all of them are going to include this service.
And if I might chime in, Keith, do you think that this is going to help include rideshare companies if the individual can use like Uber and Lyft or taxi services that could be available that maybe weren't open before because they weren't Medicaid providers?
Exactly, that purchasing of a pass or way to figure that out that goes beyond the provider pool is kind of one of the main reasons for the revision.
If anyone has a question later or thinks of one, you can still go ahead and put it in the chat box as we go ahead through all the other presentations. Just if it's something specific for Keith, you can just put, question Keith Banner and then just type out the question or wait till the end. Thank you, Keith, for that.
Yeah, I'll hang out here and I want to hear everybody else's stuff too. So I'll be around. So if you have questions or you can even call me or email me anytime you want. So thank you guys.
Very good. Thank you. Let's see, Shannon, I think you want Serena to go next. Do you want me to pull up your presentation, Serena, or are you able to share your screen?
I think I can share it. I've been struggling with my PowerPoint today. I just did an update, so hopefully it works. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Shannon, for inviting me to be on this panel. So I want to share a little bit about who I am, and maybe hopefully I can share why I might be here and what we can, what we as a regional planning commission might be able to do for you. So Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission is a metropolitan planning organization for our Dayton, Ohio region. So that region, our boundary area is Miami, Montgomery, Greene, and Northern Warren counties, which I know some of you are a part of that. And there are a few, I know that there's some folks from Butler, which isn't exactly in our metropolitan area, but we still partner with folks outside of our region because of the nature of the work we do. So essentially what we do is we collaborate with community stakeholders and residents to advance regional priorities. A lot of our regional priorities is focused on transportation because transportation is not constricted to boundaries, and yet a lot of our transportation work we do is restricted by boundaries by the nature of the way the funding comes through. So our role is we provide federal dollars for member communities to apply for projects. We also coordinate planning efforts for our area, and we run a number of councils and share best practices and learn from our community to try to implement regional projects. So that's just a high level of what we do. And hopefully I can get my PowerPoint to advance. Okay, so as shared before, we manage a number of federal funding, and one of the federal funding streams we manage is called 5310, Section 5310. It comes from the Federal Transit Administration, and essentially what this funding does is it's built to fill in gaps of services in existing transportation systems. So our public transit systems have their own money. This is a money that comes outside of that public transit funding pool, really specifically targeting individuals with disabilities and older adults to try to help remove barriers to transportation. Let me see if I can get the next slide to come through. Okay, so high level, what we spend our money on with this funding for our region is we primarily fund vehicles, infrastructure improvements. We fund mobility management, which Shannon will share a little bit more here shortly after what exactly mobility management is, as well as preventative maintenance. And we really focus on those nonprofit agencies because public transit gets their own funding. Nonprofits are there to kind of fill in the gaps of what public transit can't offer. So in our area, we've awarded 60 vehicles. We have provided those 60 vehicles to 16 different agencies around the region. And that has provided almost 1.8 million miles traveled, as well as 160,000 trips in our region. And these are trips that may have not been filled if it wasn't for this funding pool. So that's just kind of high level what we do. So as a part of that funding pool, we are required by the Federal Transit Administration to have a plan. And so our plan, we have a human services transportation plan that essentially is a collaborative effort, involves you know, we have advocates that are involved. We have transportation providers. We have people who provide different services such as health services, you know, any number of things that support these clients involved in this effort. And all of those folks came together and we developed a regional plan that was intended to kind of fill in those gaps in services. So there were 5 priority areas of this plan, and of those 5 priority areas, we developed goals and strategies as a region. So for our area, for our that little blue area, which is that Miami, Montgomery, Greene, and Northern Warren, which isn't shown on here, we developed this plan that focused on improving access to services, improving access to healthcare treatment and recovery, enhancing transportation for older adults and individuals with disabilities, promote capacity and information sharing, and improving access to employment. So these were our top priority areas. And we developed goals and strategies to kind of work together to solve those priority areas. A part of that plan, we also did a survey to kind of understand what are the transportation things that we're missing. And one of the top things we discovered was that transportation outside of county lines is the most difficult thing for people to achieve. So crossing county lines from one county to the next, whether you're you know, trying to get a job outside of your county, or you have a doctor's appointment outside of the county, that is the biggest gap or community need that we are experiencing as a region. So having this regional kind of plan and group together, we are working together to try to solve that particular issue. And then we've kind of looked at other different areas, you know, recreation, human services, shopping, government services, any number. Where are we meeting those needs, and where are we lacking? And the areas that we were most lacking was recreation. You know, being able to go and visit friends and go shopping and do entertainment. That is one of the top needs of our region. So after we developed this plan, we have actually even a broader plan that looks at an even broader geographic area. And we call it our Greater Regional Coordination Plan. And it's kind of a plan. The Human Services Transportation Plan is kind of a plan within a plan. So this plan was, you know, looking at even broader area, focusing more on those, connecting those rural communities outside of our metropolitan area into our, you know, into our made urban area. And that plan developed 4 goals. That was enhancing coordination to improve those cross-county services, increasing awareness of existing services, expanding services by sharing services, and seeking additional funding for passengers. So these were kind of the core goals of this effort, and we continue to work together to work towards that. And so what is that greater region? As I shared, it's kind of a mix of urban and rural. And the reason and the benefit of this plan is that the reality is that we all travel outside of our counties and outside of our region. And yet a lot of the work we do, a lot of the services out there are restricted by boundaries. And so this plan is trying to look beyond those boundaries to solve, you know, our regional travel needs. And also why the greater region? It's a regional structure for transportation services to reduce the duplication and fill in gaps of services, improve coordination among transit providers to enhance the options for non-drivers, increase that mobility management coverage area, and then look at ways to leverage our very limited funding among individual providers, especially those nonprofit ones, and working beyond the boundaries. So as shared before, we discovered some of our top challenges are crossing county lines. About only 31% of our providers are crossing county lines. Offering weekend services, only 25% of them are offering weekend services. And most of our providers are operating 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And so this plan is looking at those key indicators and trying to work to solve those problems. And so lastly, I think the most important part is that the council, we have a council of providers from both our Human Services Transportation Plan as well as our Greater Regional Mobility Initiative Plan that work together to solve these problems. And they meet quarterly and discuss various topics and work together to develop projects and programs and build partnerships and kind of understand what it is that we need to be addressing. So we have a lot of different people that attend these meetings. They kind of vary, you know, depending on the meeting and the topic. But a lot of them are human services providers. A lot of them are government entities, mobility managers. And then we have other lots of nonprofit organizations. And I would say one of our goals has been over the years to get more engagement from the people who are writing them, as well as the advocates for people who are writing them. And so that way we can know what are the needs and what is it, you know, the challenges that we need to be working towards together. So I encourage anyone here who is a parent or an advocate or anybody who knows that, you know, people who are looking for, you know, they're experiencing any kind of challenges with transportation, that they are, and I'm encouraging you all to join our council or listen to any of our meetings because we're trying to encourage more and more of that advocacy and voice in our council. So as shared, our council meets quarterly. What do we talk about? We talk about funding. We talk about our regional plans as well as implementing. We talk about best practices. But we also work on scoping projects. So that could be something that, you know, having somebody who is a writer or an advocate attending these meetings can help provide that kind of feedback. And I think that's the end of my presentation. I should have had a contact information here, but I can provide that to you, Patty. And I think there might be a question in here that
Yeah, there was a question right there. So yeah.
So when was the last time there was an increase in the amount of paid per trip to qualified transportation providers? The last two companies my daughter used closed because they couldn't function in the black and had a hard time keeping employees. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer this question. Could be Keith, I think.
Is it specific to waiver? Is that what we're talking about, the waiver rates?
The question came from Kathy. I don't know if Kathy.
Yeah, we might want to, just to make sure. There was a change in modified vehicles, and mileage rates were increased for providers using non-modified vehicles in January of 2020. I'm going to put in the chat the actual article about that so you guys can see that. So that's been the most recent adjustment in the waivers, if that's what we're talking about.
Yes, that was my question. I don't know.
Okay, cool. I put that article just now in chat for you, Kathy, and you can take a look at that. And if you have other questions, let me know.
Okay.
I can tell you from a public transit perspective, it's not changed, at least in the 8 years that I've been employed. They've been doing the same 1951 rate. So again, it depends on what kind of company is providing the service, the rate or the trip rate that they do. So I think those modification, Keith, was more for personal vehicles if an individual was using it.
Yeah, it was for, yeah, exactly. And it goes into more details in the article. It also, that rule change also opened up what I talked about in the slides around other locations that were included in the rule that weren't in before, and some other changes. You can read that when you get a chance at that link.
Thanks, Keith. Serena, I do want you to mention your work with the advocacy that you do in Montgomery County and the group that you're involved in with that as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all. So I am frequently attending the Montgomery County Board of Developmental Disability and Greene County Board. It's a combined board advocacy group. And they meet, I think, weekly, if I remember right, to talk about just anything that, is going on in their life in general. And I have, for a couple of years now, been, a very active, I actively attend those meetings just so I can learn directly from people who are writers, their needs. And that's really kind of what I've been doing over the years is I've been really trying to get more and more involved with advocates so that we can understand when we're deciding how funding goes towards projects, that we are funding the right things that are needed and that are of demand. And we're always encouraging more and more people to kind of join our councils and to, hear from us, but we're happy to attend your, anywhere where you are meeting or anywhere you are discussing, we're happy to go to you as well, because we know that sometimes the topics we might talk about may not be relevant for you, but we still want to hear your voice. We still want to hear what's going on. And it's really beneficial because, we're funding projects. We want to make sure that we're funding things that are needed and that we're getting your input back from it. So I hope that's kind of what you were hoping I shared, Shannon. I'm not sure exactly.
Yes, so not only is she encouraging you to join the Human Services Council and attend her meetings, but she's even willing to farm out and go to your meetings as well. She really wants to hear from the writers, from the parents, from the caregivers, because if you are funding transportation resources, who better than to know what is needed than those people that are actually using the services.
And I will say this also, we also kind of operate as a resource too. There are some counties in our area that don't have a full mobility manager staff. And we have people in the community that are wondering, what are my transportation options out there? We also provide that service because we are so connected to all the providers, we know what services they're offering. We can advise, whoever, if they're looking for services, especially if we're talking about Montgomery County or Miami County, we could provide some recommendations of where, or even Warren, some parts of Warren County. We know who the providers are and the types of services they're offering, and we can connect you to them. So we can offer that as a resource as well. And thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
So in the chat, there was a question about availability from Warren County to Sinclair Dayton campus if they don't have a waiver. I'm getting ready to talk about Miami Valley Ride Finder, but I just copied and pasted the information about Warren County Transit. They do have a limited service where they connect Warren County to Greater Dayton RTA South Transit Center, and then they would connect to Greater Dayton RTA to go downtown to their hub. So that would require Miss Laura at least 2 buses to do public transportation to cross those county lines. It would require scheduling on the Warren County side, as they only go up to Dayton, I believe, based on the need. And it's not like every single day that they do it, and you have to schedule in advance, versus the Greater Dayton RTA fixed route service. Once you connect to it at South Transit, you can then go to the corresponding bus that drops them off in front of Sinclair. So I hope, Miss Laura, that helps you with that answer.
And Serena, you mentioned if you can provide some links like to the website or how to get in with the meetings that you mentioned, like how someone can attend them or give any kind of, you can put that in the chat.
I just literally was typing that right.
Okay.
As you said that, so you're ahead of me.
Let's see here. Oh, there you go. Okay. Very good. Does anybody else have any more questions for Serena? I don't see any others. Before we move on, I'll have Shannon start hers, and I don't see, yep. All right. Go ahead, Shannon, whenever you're ready. You're on mute.
That wasn't so much the problem. I was trying to get to the right slideshow. So can everybody see it okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So as mentioned before, my name is Shannon Webster. I am your local Greene County Mobility Manager, but like most Ohio mobility managers, our arms reach out statewide. So we know many resources, because as a mobility manager, we don't necessarily manage people, but we manage resources, information, do referrals, anything that we can assist people with. So first, I'm going to start off with my employer, who is Green Cats Public Transit, and I'm going to discuss what public transit options that they provide. In addition to riding for the public, they have other services that are available as well, and I'll go over that. As we can see from this picture, though, anyone can ride Green Cats for any trip purpose. I kid when I talk to people that I train that it could be a 2-year-old, 2-month-old, or even a 102-year-old on our bus. You just never know who's going to be riding public transportation. I do have videos available, so when you open this presentation, you can go directly on these links to learn how to schedule a ride, and they are listed both as a travel training sheet, planning a scheduled ride under my website with Green Cats, or you can go to the video and watch about a 1.5 minutes on how to use the services. But in general, Green Cats Public Transit has currently 3 types of vehicles. It could be a modified minivan with a ramp. It could be a light transit vehicle like you see on the far left, or it could be our new Ford Transit vehicles that you see at the bottom right. These transport individuals in and around Greene County, as well as will go into neighboring counties. The hours for operations for our scheduled rides are currently 7 days a week. Trips can begin at 6 a.m. and they have to end with the last drop off at 9 p.m. There is a reservation process to this. So currently that is 2 days in advance by noon. These are business days. So those are your weekdays, Monday through Friday, that you have to contact the scheduling office. And then you can go and schedule as far in advance as 30 days or in a month. Mind you, the service area, like I mentioned, is Greene County. So all trips need to begin in Greene County. However, if we take you into a neighboring county, as long as both one-way trips are scheduled together, we will then bring you back. So if we take you to Montgomery County, or we take you to Clark County, because it's a neighbor of ours, we will bring you back. Door-to-door is also available upon request. A lot of people get confused by this in the sense door-to-door means that the bus driver is going to come up to your door, not go through the threshold, but come and assist individuals due to age or disability from their door to the vehicle. Curb to curb is more where the vehicle pulls up, much like you would have a friend coming and picking you up, and you would come out to the vehicle. And that's typical to service unless the door-to-door is specially requested. In scheduling a reservation, it's important to provide all the right information. When I do these presentations, because I used to deliver pizzas for 10 years, I say it's much like what you would do in ordering a pizza. They need to know who you are, where are they going, and what kind of trip that you need. So contact information, name, address, phone number. The date of birth is important because anyone can ride that is 14 years of age and older without an adult with them. Now, I caution those that may have developmental or intellectual disabilities to always make sure that an individual knows that you're going on public transportation, and make sure that you're getting these rides scheduled with someone so that they're aware of what you're doing, because safety is always critical in that. If they do have a mobility device, knowing the size, make, and model is important to tell the scheduling office. If there is a question on whether or not the mobility device will be able to go into the accessible vehicle, then a safety manager can come out prior to your trip and make sure that the safety or mobility device is available. It is also important to even mention if you walk slow, use a cane, a crutch, or a walker. So not just the device itself, but then also if you have any other mobility concerns, because then they will make sure that there's more time in picking and dropping you off with this transportation. Personal care attendants can ride at no cost. However, it is important to let the scheduler know this information because they are accounting for every seat in the vehicle. So even if there is no fare collected, they need to know if someone's going to be occupying the seat. And that's as well as a service animal. The big thing with the personal care attendant is it can't be your companion. It actually has to be someone that's going to be performing a service for you. Doesn't necessarily mean on the vehicle. It could be a service that they're providing at your final destination. It's just important that this isn't your friend and you guys are going to the mall together so that you can get a free trip, if you will. So always make sure that those individuals that are riding with you are providing you a service. Knowing the date, and like I mentioned, you can schedule up to 30 days in advance, so you can put multiple trip requests in on one phone call. You need to have the exact address of where you're going. This can include your pickup location as well as your drop off, and that's even if the locations are different than your home address. We ask for your appointment time because this service is designated by destination. So it's not necessarily the time that you want to be picked up to get to your destination, but we will ensure that you get there at the time that is needed. For instance, if you have a 2 o'clock appointment and you need to be there by 1:45, our scheduling software will do the appropriate calculations to make sure that we pick you up in time to get you there. Please note, though, that these trips are a rideshare service, so you can ride up to an hour prior to being dropped off. In addition, there may be other individuals on the vehicle with you to get where you're going because they're going in a similar area. And then, of course, if you have any other individuals that are getting picked up with you, it's important to have their information as well. The second type of service that Green Cats offers is currently called the Flex Routes. And again, I have videos here as well as a travel training webpage that you can go on to learn more about the Flex Routes. We did have a schedule changes effective September 7th for our green and red lines. So those do look a little bit different now. But in general, our flex routes have defined routes with time points, which is a little bit different than, let's say, a big regional transit authority that has bus stops with actual people stopping. So you can notice on these pictures that these are the transfer points that allow these vehicles to go between areas. In the top right corner is our Xenia Town Square transfer point, and you can see the vehicles lined up there. And then in the bottom left is our Park Hills Plaza transfer point. These vehicles meet every 2 hours because they circulate that area and then they allow individuals to transfer between them. Those defined routes, I'll show you a map here currently, do not cover all of Greene County. And currently, because of the driver shortage, they are not running on Sundays. So the service is just Monday through Saturday now. The 2 lines that I mentioned, green and red, are actually on modified schedules. Again, due to driver shortage, we were just not able to continue having them run the way they used to. For reservations, however, you can get a deviation a half a mile from the route. So if you don't live directly on the defined route, but are within a half mile, or your destination is within a half mile of the route, you can request in advance, much like a scheduled ride, a deviation for the vehicle to either deviate and pick you up or deviate and drop you off. We also connect to Greater Dayton RTA, and as you notice in the bottom right-hand picture, we are having a connection here at Wright State University, and we meet at the same bus stop that the Raider Shuttle and Greater Dayton RTA does. So there's 3 different vehicles to transport individuals there at the Wright State University Student Union. Here is the map that I was promising to show you. So you can see in your bottom right-hand corner, That is the original Green Line area that it served, going all the way out to Central State and Wilberforce. With the changes that came in September, the Red Line now operates from Dayton and goes all the way out to Central State and Wilberforce, with the Green Line cutting off approximately the right hand of not going all the way out there to the Wilberforce area. The Yellow Line connects Xenia with Fairborn via Yellow Springs. You've also got the Blue Line, because our Skyhawks are blue in Fairborn, covering the Fairborn area there. And our Beavers are orange and black in Beaver Creek. So the Orange Line is then covering mainly Pentagon Boulevard and North Fairfield Road. It doesn't cover all of Beaver Creek, as you can see, but it gets you to the mall and the retail shopping areas. We also, thanks to Greene County GIS, have an interactive map where individuals can look at these routes, as well as with this tool of the magnifying glass, you can type in your own address to see if you live close to a line. In addition, mobility managers like myself can also help with trip planning in that aspect if you need more assistance. But of course, the links are available there, but it's supposed to be so that it's more hands-on for you to be able to do some trip planning on your own using our flex routes. It's all about the money, right? So current fares within Greene County, it is $3 each way for an individual to ride with a scheduled ride. So $3 to get to your destination and $3 to get home. If it is to or from a neighboring county outside of Greene County, then you're looking at $6 each way. The only discount would be for those that are 13 years of age and younger for children. With the flex routes, however, that fare is cut in half at only $1.50 each way, with also a discount for those that are seniors or disabled. So not only just children underage. They can ride for one way 75 cents. So for the round trip, you're looking at $1.50. Now, mind you, much like what Keith was mentioning, we've got some changes coming our way July 1 as well. So please stay tuned and come back to our website, as there might be some changes to these flex routes, new service. We might be piloting our fares. We're just going to be undergoing some changes here in 2022. However, there are no extra charge for any transfers between the flex routes. So if I'm living in Xenia and I need to get to Beaver Creek, I can then take the Green Line to the Yellow Line to the Orange Line. And while it may take me some time, I've only paid 75 cents for that trip if I'm disabled to get there. All fares do have to be exact change. The bus driver cannot give any change. So it's important to have exact fares on you when you go. If the fare is only $3 and you give them a $5 bill, you just paid $5 for that one-way trip. There are tokens and flex route monthly passes available for purchase at the Green Cat's office, and that is currently along the Green Flex route. They are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Some additional information that could be important is that on the flex routes, maybe you have a difficulty or a disability that doesn't enable you to flag the bus along the line. You can call the dispatch ahead of time and have them be notified of where you're at or where you're needing to board the bus. This is because the flex routes has a unique feature that you will not find any bus stops, benches, any signs denoting that there is a flex route along this street. However, if along the line it's safe for you to board, you can flag by just waving down the bus and you can get on or off. Again, personal care attendants ride for free, as I mentioned, and a disabled passenger is anyone meeting the mobility definitions of the ADA Act. You self-declare with Green Cats. So this is where Green Cats is also different. They do not have a separate paratransit. Excuse me, hold on. Voice started going tickle in there. You self-declare because there is no eligibility requirement to ride. So they do not have a separate paratransit model, much like a larger RTA would. That would be like your Cincinnati Metro or your Greater Dayton RTA. Additional services that are available is now the same day service. Riders can now obtain transportation for the same day appointment or spontaneous trips. However, these are only available upon let me start over. These are only based upon availability, and trips can be scheduled when they're requested. So you do have to contact the dispatch office directly to schedule a same day ride. And they do, riders do need to be registered prior to requesting the same day service. So if you haven't used the service before, it may be a two-step where you call the scheduling office to get registered and then contact the dispatch office to schedule the ride. The cost will be the same as scheduled rides in advance. However, again, it's based upon capacity and availability. So if you wait to the same day for a trip, I cannot guarantee that those trips will always be available. New because of this lovely pandemic that we've been in since 2019, we have been providing free transportation. It does say effective August 20th, but this is like my fourth update since COVID had started. So we originally was providing it actually up to 24 hours in advance of individuals' appointments, and it was free for them to go get vaccinated. Now we're gone back since August of 21 to our service hours of you need to provide 2 business days in advance by noon up to 30 days in advance. Green Cats, thanks to the Ohio Department of Transportation, was trying to be due diligent in providing this vital transportation so individuals can get vaccinated at no cost to them. With that being said, the same funding is now also providing rides to wellness. So we're using similar monies that we had for the COVID transportation to then follow up and provide free transportation to medical appointments for riders that may not be eligible for other subsidies. So if an individual, let's say, has a Medicaid card, they could be eligible for transportation through their Medicaid card. If an individual is with Council on Aging, they may be eligible for transportation through them. If they don't qualify for any other agency, we will still provide them that transportation at no cost to them through their medical appointment. And this can include follow-ups for booster shots or any other type of medical destinations that they're needing to go to. Additional, you're going to see this again, we do provide non-medical transportation. So much like what Keith mentioned that's available from the DODD, Green Cats has been a provider for well over 20 years. This is at no cost to the rider, and the SSA at the Greene County Board of Developmental Disabilities Office determines the eligibility. They in turn then provide the proper paperwork, which is those lovely ISPs, to our office so that their case is uploaded, and then when they contact us for transportation, all the necessary information is available. We also are a non-emergency medical transportation provider. So for those individuals that qualify for Medicaid, Green Cats is the Greene County provider. In addition, we have a partnership with Xenia Adult Recreation Center. Needed is the scheduling office has to have their social security number to verify eligibility with the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. So on to travel training. Can everybody hear me still okay? It said my connection's unstable.
Yes, you dropped for a minute, but you're back.
Okay, good. Gotta love Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is more service that I provide and most mobility managers can assist in the state of Ohio. This is where we provide travel training that's tailored to the person's needs. We want to make sure that they develop the skills to be safe and that can be independent. It might be providing knowledge of the different transportation options like trip planning, especially now that the self-directed transportation is going to be coming down the pike. This may be really essential for individuals to reach out to their local mobility managers to learn about all the mobility options that are available and be able to receive training. There is no cost to learn. And again, I have a link to my website on the Greene County, Ohio for travel training for more information. I also help administer a site called Miami Valley Ride Finder. This lists public and nonprofit transportation options, but it doesn't own any vehicles or schedule any rides. It's just strictly an information resource. Think of it like a database. You can put on the main page your starting locations, your ride type, the purpose of your trip. And then when you click the search button, it's going to give you all of those transportation providers based on those choices that you had. We are looking to hopefully expand the service. Currently, it's only has listings for Greene, Montgomery, and Miami. And then I also have resources traveling to and from the Miami Valley, and that's where that Warren County transit information came from under that. We're hoping, as what Serena mentioned, with the Greater Regional Mobility Initiative, including the other 5 counties that are part of our Greater Regional Miami network to this website. But that's hopefully more to come. So as Serena mentioned, I am a mobility manager, and here's your lovely definition of what mobility management is. In fancy talk, here's your definition, and that's where we come from, National Center for Mobility Management. In only 8 years, it finally took me 8 years to figure out a short way of saying, I provide transportation resources for people who have challenges. So as individuals come to me, whether it's to get themselves or another individual to and from healthcare, school, job, even just grocery store, activities of daily living, I'm going to try to provide them all the resources I have. It could be information and referral as well to other resources, whether it is like Council on Aging or to get food. I try to be very involved in my community and know not only about public transit options, but then also if it's biking, walking, volunteer drivers, you name it, I try to manage those resources and have them available for people who call. We also help increase the understanding and awareness of community transportation needs. So much like the reason why we're doing this presentation right now. And in addition, why I also brought in Keith and Serena, because we want to make sure that transportation is included in all local and regional planning activities all the way up to the state level. We also increase local capacity for transportation services. So I am one of those advocates, if you will, a professional advocate who attends these community meetings and advocates for my residents in Greene County, as well as any other gaps in services that I think are occurring to make sure that individuals can get where they need to go. Here is my public or my contact information. Like I mentioned, I am the Greene County Mobility Manager located at Green Cats Public Transit. Miss Patty also has all of our contact information that she'll be able to share out with you. So even if it's not included in the slide, Miss Patty has that information.
Shannon, there
Go
was a
ahead.
question out there. I don't know if you can see that.
I didn't at first, but let me pull it up. Okay, that's Serena's contact.
The last question from Kathy.
What are some tips to approaching local? Let's see. Sorry, the chat window got really small all of a sudden. What are some tips to approaching local public transportation to expand routes? I am part of a group in Indiana working to develop neurodiverse housing community. It's likely will be beyond current bus lines, but hopefully close. Any tips for when we approach them to possibly expand? So I think all of us, probably me and Serena both, can probably help with that. I think for myself, it'll be really important to know what type of population that they're serving and the trip purposes that they're needing to go to. If neurodiverse, I guess I need a little explanation if that means beyond intellectual and developmental disabilities, if that includes seniors. There could be other transportation opportunities for different populations over and beyond just the public resources that are available. As far as your public transportation, I would see, and I can do some digging for you as well, but seek out your county mobility manager. And if there's not a local county one, then there may be a regional planner, much like what Serna does, that handles the Human Services Council. And they would definitely be interested in learning about your needs. Because as Serna mentioned, they are all about serving their community. And if they don't know what the needs are, that's going to be difficult to help people. So let's see, 75% people with IDD, 25 intentional neighbors who help support. Wow, that sounds awesome. If Miss Kathy, you can send information to Patty to forward to us. This is a group or a population I had not heard of before. So I would definitely be interested in learning more. Keith and Serna, do you have anything else to add?
I'd be interested in hearing more about that too, that Kathy's talking about in Indiana. It sounds interesting. So if you have any information, Kathy, you might send my way too. Thank you.
And I would say, I mean, I think very close to what you're saying, Shannon, is find out if you have a council, a Human Services Transportation Council. You'll figure that out by looking at your local metropolitan planning organization, whatever that would be. I would also recommend going to the board directly for the public transit agency to share the need so that they're aware of that. Most of those meetings are usually public meetings. So they provide an opportunity for you to come and kind of share the need. Maybe they aren't even aware that there is a need there. So I would say just kind of see where you might have opportunities where there are groups of people working together to solve these kind of problems, and then looking at your local, either your transit board or even your community board, your county board or your city board, whatever it be, to share this need, and that way they can advocate for funding or expanding services.
Does that help with your question? Kathy, does that help with your question then? Okay, very good. And I put my email in there. If you wanted to send anything, I can forward it to the group. Does anybody else have any questions at this point? When they transfer, let me see, that would be for, I guess for Shannon or whoever. When you do, I'll talk a minute. Well, if people want to, think of a question, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat box. But when you're transferring, when you have to transfer from one system to another or from one bus, do you need to have someone along to help with those who, is that, will the driver assist you, like if you're in a wheelchair or anything like that, to make that transfer over physically? Like when you go from one system to another?
I think with mobility devices is a little different than if an individual has intellectual or developmental disabilities. Public transportation cannot enforce individuals to have a personal care attendant. I feel that it's really important for the family to decide if that individual is needing a personal care attendant, if they feel that they cannot make those transfers on their own. As far as with a mobility device, I can tell you transfers between systems typically involve one bus driver dropping that individual off at a destination and then the next driver picking them up and putting them on the vehicle to the other. So I think with mobility devices, it's a little bit different than if someone has an intellectual or developmental disability. As I do with travel training, if I work with an individual and I feel that they need more supports, I may give them like a badge ID card that they can then show the driver that's written out. Maybe if the individual is nonverbal, I need help getting to bus 4 or what have you. So that's where travel training is going to be really crucial for that individual to go through to get some additional supports that they need to be independent and traveling in their community.
Let's see, I don't see any other questions just yet. 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and close the recording. So for those who want to just, ask if they, instead of typing, if you just want to have a discussion, that's fine. we have there's a little reactions. You can raise your hand, you can unmute and ask your question. 1 second while I close the recording down.